This will be my evaluation for my project. I do have a couple of minor things that I will do after this recording. That will be the death, the adding of more AI enemies, and finally finishing off the cutscene animation that happens when you do win the game. Again, I will go ahead and do a no commentary showcase of the game once it's more closer to adding those things, and I will, of course, try to build my game. That's where my first issue comes into mind. Currently, there is a strange issue that I cannot figure out just yet, but I can't currently build my game. Again, this will be a problem that I'll fix likely after this recording or tomorrow. But as of now, this is my game. So, in terms of the development of this game, I have felt mixed. At first, when I first started the project, I was not sure how I want to do my game. And after a while, I ended up deciding that I should try looking online for inspiration, and I felt that a Banjo Kazooie style game would be a perfect mix, especially because I love Banjo Kazooie and I would love to work with Raren sometime in the future. So I went online and researched, and I found that someone released a map file for the Smash Brothers Ultimate stage of Spiral Mountain. Of course, as you can see by this left side, excuse the video frame rate, it's just some settings that I haven't sorted out for my OBS, but in game is a lot smoother. The some assets don't have as much detail as others because normally in the original game that it's supposed to be for, you wouldn't be in these sections, so you wouldn't know. Anyway, continuing on, when I added in this map, I was not sure how to feel at first about it, but after a couple of weeks of working onto the project, I felt comfortable with what I have. I started thinking of ideas for possessions and such. And then I came up with the idea that I think that my possessions should be objectives, missions, similar to that of the transformations in Banjo Kazooie. So I started developing the Rock Smasher first. The models, of course, of the player and other goat here were, of course, found on Mixamo, thanks to the animation lecture. And again, there are a couple of elements from my lectures that I felt that my game shouldn't have, though I started to implement some of them occasionally because I felt like I have to add them. That's where the health and AI comes into mind. Originally, my game wasn't going to have that, except only a couple of days ago, I started implementing the AI from the weekly task, and once I had that sorted out, I felt like I should add it. Because why not? It's extra marking if I showcase multiple mechanics, and having an AI would be good. Although that AI doesn't really work for possession game, I'll still keep it. Of course, I will likely change his model and such, but that's a problem for me to deal with in the future. Anyway, so of course, the whole idea is that when you do press F while facing towards them with your character, you possess them. I initially wanted to do it so that it's based on your camera, hence why I had this plus, but I didn't at the time understand how would I get that to work. I tried doing some things here and there to change the possession PC or GM, and I couldn't figure it out. Of course, there are definitely people who have, and in the future, I would definitely reach out more to see if anyone would be willing to guide me in some aspects. Like, of course, one of the problems that I did was I didn't feel like I reached out to my lecturers or support too much. I was more guiding them in some instances. Uh, so this is down to a personal issue of mine, and I always feel like I do that, and it shouldn't be the case. Which is why in the future I will, of course, improve on being able to reach out to lecturers more. Because, again, I wasn't too sure what I wanted my game to be. So occasionally I would ask my lecturer the ideas and such that I had. I had an idea for a swimming character, but my lecturer recommended to me that I should work on the three main possessables, and I can see that it worked out better if I did these three and ignored the swimming one because of how hard that may be to implement. The goal was probably an a mixed uh actor to make. I basically create the child of base character so that it could follow the same principle. I can connect the health and details for the character stat and change them, of course. But the whole rock smashing aspect isn't, of course, is unique towards the goat. And I'd say that was definitely a tough aspect because I first had to learn how to deal with the whole charging would cause an attack. So I thought, oh, would I do it so that there's a spiff trace on the go? Or would I just do it so that whenever you do have charge activated, it just enables a ball, which if, for example, you hit the rocks and that ball is true, it would explode. It's something that I had to think about. Of course, I have what it is now, and of course, when you do run into them, it uses the new Unreal Engine Fracture tool, which was a great addition. I at first wasn't sure how I would do it until I was informed by one of my friends about the new tool, as they've used it for their project as well. So I started to utilize it, and I also learned how to add force with radial force and such, and that's what allowed me to do all this. Of course, whenever you go ahead and do defeat all the rocks, you get a tick, and then the key will appear, which then if you press E against it, you'll obtain it. Now, when it comes to the other tasks, I wish I did work on these a tiny bit more, though I'm perfectly fine with what it is. Again, as of now, there's no death script for the player, so if this AI is going to continuously attack me, which as a bonus, as you could see, I get attacked, but if I do get away from him, after 5 seconds of chasing me, he'll go back to wandering. Though there is a weird issue in that he will randomly decide to start chasing me again, but that's a problem I'll have to look into. But if you saw down in the bottom corner, you saw that my health went down once my shield goes down. And after I've stopped taking damage, you can see that my shield goes back up. Anyway, the other problem was the flying. I felt that this was perhaps easier in a sense. I didn't have to blueprint the flying BP too much because it already existed in a previous project. Though what I did have to do was code in its whole collisions. I had to detect its possession so that these rings and the help player information on the bottom corner would go away. So, of course, when you do fly into it, it plays an animation to shrink it, destroys it, and adds a value. So, the whole point is that you'll use WASD to control its angle and spacebar to move it forward. You would have to go ahead, of course, and fly around into each of these rings. And once all of them have been caught, the key would appear. The key script was interesting because it's, as you probably saw in my forum, or I will likely show you in another video. The scripts for the keys are kind of similar, except they'll just have different variables. This is because it links towards my game mode of possession, and that is what keeps the variables saved to allow for a much easier way of doing things. One of the things that I'll definitely try to work on is, again, sorting out the AI after this video. And two, I wanted to make an easier way of getting the spaceship to be able to be possessed by the player again, rather than just flying into it. Because I felt that currently, with the state that it is, I feel that the spaceship would be the hardest one to control or possess back. Again, I'll likely show you once I've done a video of the final game. Anyway, as you saw there, there is a secret task in the mountain that you'll know that something's there via the cinematic camera, also by holding down tab, which activates your tasks. This will, of course, show the missions that you'll have to do, and it will also mention that there's a hidden fourth key near the river, which I'll, of course, be altering here and there to make the game better. So if we head on down over to here, we can, of course, now see the final objective. If you possess this character, you'll become the first-person character, which, as you can see, the model of the 3D character will disappear. Of course, if I want to, before uploading the project, I could change the model, but that's not necessarily needed because the design structure of the game isn't as important as the mechanics, and I felt like that was definitely the case. So I started just working on ensuring my mechanics were done first. As of course you can see, these targets will follow a path that I have made, and the idea is that you have to shoot every target that gets shown. I've got them in a nice variety of shapes to allow different kinds of challenge, and I feel that this was a good mix. Anyway, once you've shot all the targets, this key will appear just like the rest. And if you've done all of this and you've got all the keys, you should then be able to possess back into the character that you need to play as. Again, there's a minor issue there that I mentioned I would try and fix, where you can still possess the AI, which I will have to try and fix, of course. Anyway, as you can see, we go ahead and now climb up the mountain. The idea is that once you've done every single task and collected all 4 keys, you would then be able to press E and go to the end. Which, of course, once you reach the end, it will celebrate and you'll be sent to the main menu. The main menu is also following the simple tutorial that Unreal gives, where the whole idea is that you just have simple menus, and once you press, it sets the visibility, or when you press this or this, it would play or quit. Again, in another video, I will showcase how that all works, but for now, that will be the end of my evaluation. A few more minor things to say. I've enjoyed this project. While I've had issues working on it or getting inspired to work on it, I will say that this project was definitely more fun than what I thought it would be. It definitely had a lot of challenging elements, which I always tried to ensure I could do. And I do feel that with everything that I had planned, I feel like I had done everything. I wanted to simply just make a Banjo-Kazooie style game, and I feel like I have achieved that. Now, of course, if I were to have this game publicly shown and such, would be a questionable task, as of course the way how the game is and what map it is. I wouldn't feel strong showing it out in the public just yet, which is why if I were to go ahead and publish this, I would likely change the map around to be similar, but of my own design. I am not a modeler, that's why I've done this. Of course, I could do what some people do and use simple assets and all, but as mentioned way earlier, I struggled to get inspired to work on my project with that. I had to do something to get inspired to work on this, and I feel like I have achieved it. But again, that's going to be all for this evaluation. And I will, of course, record the gameplay and such later on.